All right. Hello, everyone. We are here. We're waiting for Sheba to join us. Oh, let me just close this door real quick.
Cool.
Sheba! Girl! Okay.
How are you? Whenever you say my name, I feel like you're saying Shaba. You know, I gotta come with a bogle.
What's going on, girl?
I am here, blessed and highly favored.
Always.
I love it.
Blessed
I
and
love
highly
it.
favored.
Blessed and
Should
highly favored.
Always.
Yes.
Here we are.
Here we are. Episode 21.
We did it.
21.
We did it.
21
21 weeks. Right?
Incredible.
And I
Right?
think, yeah, and I
Incredible.
think like our first maybe 4 weeks was like in person.
I know.
And we've now done quarantine version of the show more than we've done in person, which is crazy.
Nothing is impossible.
Nothing.
There are
Nothing
no
is
excuses, only solutions. And we
There
figured
you
it
go.
out.
We did.
There you go. So this topic will be an interesting one.
Oh, will it ever?
It is.
Girl, yeah.
Yeah.
And in light of everything that has been happening, we've clearly been discussing things that are happening. And I think what I've been seeing a lot of most recently is a lot of companies coming out and saying, we've hired such and such for diversity and inclusion, or putting out posts about diversity and inclusion. And then, we'll be talking about her, but, someone like Candace Owens, who you think, okay, like we said, it's put up or shut up. Is it tokenism or is it representation? And what's the difference? Like, what does that even look like? Like, what does it look when you have someone who's a token versus actually having someone who stands up, speaks for, and represents your organization and what your organization stands for? So, yeah.
So here we are.
Here we are.
And what's so interesting about it is, like, Candace Owens, who we will get to, because of course, I love my research and I had to go do some research. And, I have a fun fact about Candace Owens.
Oh,
I also have
Looking forward
fun
to
fact.
Looking forward to hearing
Fun
about
fact.
that.
Got a few fun facts about a woman who does not think racism exists, but we'll get to that fun fact, which you guys probably already know. But I think, what's interesting is we're in such a moving time. Like the world, the dial on things are moving. And I think more people are listening. But the question is, what and whom are they listening to?
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you were to listen to someone like Candace Owens, you think that, racism doesn't exist. Hello.
Hi, Kimberly.
That's what you say. Right? You would think racism does not exist, and Black people, we are bent on slavery and we don't want to move forward. And, I have some quotes from her about oppression and whether it exists or not. Like, it's dangerous to listen to certain people without wanting to formulate your own opinion, because the danger of someone like a Candace Owens or Ben Carson or an Omarosa is that they're highly intelligent Black people.
Yeah.
Right? Extremely intelligent.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes.
And when you put them in something like a Republican Party, who has not necessarily represented what Black people want in the United States and really around the world, it becomes a danger, because they are put out as they speak for the Black community. I know about y'all, but they don't speak for me.
Thank you. Well, that's point blank, period. They don't speak for the entire Black community. They speak for themselves, but not for the entire Black race. No.
So I wanted to start off the show with even what is tokenism, right? And I thought, a literal definition. Y'all know I love my definition.
Girl, I know you're like a dictionary.
Put my laptop.
You're a dictionary. You know these things. Remind people. remind them what tokenism is.
Right? So again, the title of today's show is Put Up or Shut Up, Tokenism or Representation. And of course, again, we will be talking and mentioning Candace Owens, who right now is the token Black person. Like a lot of, like, she represents tokenism for me, right? So tokenism is the practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effect to be inclusive to members of minority groups, especially by recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of racial or sexual equality within a workforce. So we really wanted to ask people, you know, and each other, is there a difference between tokenism and representation? And when do you know what that difference is?
Yes. So I want to say, this is what I have to say about it. So, you know, and I think all of us can say here on, you know, our show today that all of us have been, we've all been the token for many organizations. And I have to say this, and I hate that I have to say it here, but if we didn't allow to be the tokens, we probably wouldn't have gone as far in our careers as we have, because we had to be that person. But would I say that for me personally, I don't feel I was a full-on token, only because my dialogue was always what it is now. I never came out and said, this organization, they accept me, therefore they're totally, you know, they're anti-racist, they're a good community here, all the people here love me, and all of that. I would never say that. I am very open with saying, look, although I worked for such and such company, that company was not for me, and it wasn't for people of Black people, it wasn't for people of color, it wasn't for people of certain religions. Like, I can openly say that. So at that point, I am representing. I'm not being a token. I would say a token is someone that has picked up the dialogue that the organization wants to hear and says it out loud. And I think that I think that none of us have done that as, say, like a Candace Owens, where you know, you've picked up a dialogue that doesn't actually really apply to you and spew that out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%, Car. I know that with especially with my last place of employment, it was very much similar to what you were just stating. It was me. I was the only Black female at my place of business, and then we had one of my coworkers who was Guyanese. Yeah, and then we had two Black male. So we were the only like minorities visible, in our community or in our workplace. And anytime there was an opening for a new position or anything, you know, I knew that in our little community at work, they were more than capable of hiring or uplifting one of us, but they would make sure to go out of their way and hire someone that was, you know, on the lighter side. Yes. Exactly. And it's like, okay, you know, I always felt like, and I wasn't just deep down, I always knew, like, you know what, like, this is just for HR to say, oh, we have minorities here, we're pro, you know, this, we're pro that, but deep down I always knew, look, you just have us here so that you don't look like you're being dry and hella racist. So, I mean, and even just the kind of dialogue they would throw around and stuff, and they think it's funny. And there was one of the Black guys I would work with, nice guy, but he was completely token. He would laugh at these jokes, making fun of other Black people. And I'd just be looking at him like, really? You're laughing at this? Like, these people are not your friends.
That's tokenism, right?
Yeah, that's that. I was like, dude, these people are not your friends. That you're being the dancing clown right now. You agreeing with them. Do you think with you agreeing with them, they're going to level you up? Because when I did leave that job, he was still in the same mesh-up position he was in when I first got there. So it's just...
Here's the thing. And you know, and Carsey, you said it, and that's what I wanted to point out. It's one thing to be the person that they hire to tick a box.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us have been the person they hire to tick a box. It's a next thing to become a sounding board for that organization when you truly know that that organization does not represent your values
Exactly.
and or care about other people that look like you, right?
That's it.
And that's the big part about it. There is a lot of box ticking happening. And you know, we live in Canada, and I think people think that Canada is, you know, the land of milk and honey, like I like to call it. Canada is also systemically racist. We've all experienced it. I have been through it back and forth and back again, right?
Yeah.
So we've all experienced it, and we all have sat in rooms where we go, my voice is actually not needed here. Like they want to tick the box, but the reality is they don't want to hear what comes out of my mouth unless somehow it has to do with speaking for Black people.
Right.
As if somehow our voice is the voice of Black people. And I'm like, no, I'm speaking because I'm Toshiba. I can't tell you what other Black people are thinking.
Exactly.
But I can say that you don't represent what Black people are looking for. Your organization that's lily white trying to market to the Black community, how are you going to market to a community that you don't even actually represent in your boardroom, in your shareholders? So like Garcia said, I'm not going to go around and advocate for this company and say, yes, because I somehow work for this company, I'm their billboard of diversity.
That's it.
Yeah.
One person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like,
I'm not going to go out and convince other Black people
No.
that somehow
Exactly.
this organization that they're fully aware of is racist, like the Republican Party, because we're going to get to Miss Candace Owens,
Right.
like the Republican Party. Like I'm not going to go out and convince other Black people when it's very clear in front of me what is happening, right? Because you're actually insulting someone's intelligence. You're saying by going around and saying to Black people, well, you are, and some of the quotes that she says, it's like I was reading them to my daughter earlier, and she was like, what?
It can be
It's
It's inflammatory.
It can be
It's
disturbing.
It makes you wonder what the hell's going on up there. Because like you guys said, she is a very smart woman. I'm glad that she's smart, but some of the things that come out of her mouth, wow, yeah. I'm looking forward to you reading her quotes because
Oh yeah,
all you gotta do is look at her Twitter.
Yeah, her Twitter
and read through it, and that alone will give you a snapshot of her thought process.
Yeah,
as to what she feels about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
How she
I'm gonna read that.
About how she looks at someone like George Floyd,
Yeah.
or previous people that have been, subjected to police brutality or racism. And, you look at her life, you start to dig. She's a fascinating character. So you start to dig. You start to say, okay, what happened here with this woman who is smart? How did she end up the way she ended up? And how did someone like, say, Michelle Obama end up the way how she ended up? Because we have two smart Black women here, but the dialogue, what's coming out of their mouth, it's completely different. So what happened?
What happened on the
girl?
Staircase to Heaven to make one of them
her have this thought process that she has? Because she's 31, she's young.
Very young.
She's very young. I don't know, one day maybe she will, like O.J. Simpson, she will learn that she is actually Black.
Maybe she'll wake up.
And she'll be like, oh, okay, that's what it was all about. But, all jokes aside, there was something that, she grew up in Connecticut, in the suburbs. But again, she actually, when I look at her bio, she looks like a lot of the, smart, Black people I know. Grew up in a suburb, grew up, in a good home with, good guidance, and went on to school, cared about her education. These are all good things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is wrong. But
Something happened.
her joy in the Republican Party, I think, is probably where it kind of all started. And maybe some self-hate, as in not liking being Black.
That could be it very well.
You said a word, and that's why I pointed at, you said a character, right? Like, I often wonder if this is a ploy and she's really playing some character, because sometimes I'm so astounded, and I don't try to follow Candace Owens because she makes me upset, and I like to be in a peaceful bubble, right? Like, I like peaceful things around me, and so I try not to deal with her. However, I often wonder if people who put themselves in these positions where they are knowingly tokens, because, you know, one of the quotes Candace Owens says, she calls herself an Uncle Tom. She actually says, I will go out for the rest of you and call myself an Uncle Tom, right? And so I go, is this a ploy to somehow infiltrate this Republican Party to make a change, right? There's that part of me who wants to believe, because again, she's a very intelligent woman.
Yep.
And this is part of some ploy, because the reality is, if you dig a little bit deeper, she was actually a liberal. She considered herself a liberal until the Trump election, right?
Very
she was a liberal. Fun fact. Here's my fun fact about Candace Owens. Let me get my laptop. Candace Owens, when she was 18, so this was about 2008, actually launched a racial discrimination suit.
Right, yes. I did hear about this.
She launched a discrimination suit?
Fun fact. So I'm going to read my fun fact. So she launched a racial discrimination suit in 2008 against the son of the then mayor, Daniel Malloy, and I think it was four other students that went to her school.
Yes.
Her family was awarded $37,500 from the school system. Another fun fact. In 3 messages that they left her, they referred to her as dirty, threatened to burn her house down, and tar and feather her.
Yes.
Owens left school for 6 weeks when they refused to suspend the students because, according to her, it was traumatic for her to be around white kids who were racially discriminating against her. Okay? The lawsuit said that the decision to delay suspension amounted to a failure to protect Owens. The suit accused the city of violating federal title, I think this is Title VI, rule banning discrimination in schools that receive federal funding. The school has continued to do nothing to protect Ms. Owens, and repeated harassment and intimidation by the young men and their friends. Now, reason I thought this was a fun fact.
It is a fun fact.
About Candace Owens, who made a racial discrimination claim at 18 in 2008, who had to take away time from school because this experience was so traumatic because she had received, threatening messages.
Right.
Fun fact. The reason it's a fun fact, let me read some of the quotes that Candace Owens has to say about race and Black people. Racism exists, but it is far less rampant than ignorance. And ignorance can be cured through experience. One quote. I can't think of the last Asian that I ran into that talked about internment camps, but Black people always want to talk to me about slavery. I don't know why people like being oppressed. That was the moment I wanted to use Bitcoin, when I saw Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. It's like when you see all the slave movies, it's like, why you got to keep reminding us about slavery? Why don't you put Michael Jordan on a $20 bill? Last quote. Play the Black card expertly and you can win awards. Make millions all the while claiming that the people who got you there somehow hate you.
Woo!
Now, I say all of those quotes, and I have to say, I don't have context for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whom she was speaking to and what she was speaking about. So I will let people infer their own conclusions about these quotes. However, what they say to me is, here's a young woman who claimed racial discrimination, got paid for racial discrimination,
Yes.
was traumatized by racial discrimination, so much so that she had to leave school for several weeks. And you know, and at the end of your high school year, 6 weeks is a long time to be out of school.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's a whole lot you're missing. But she was so traumatized by these messages that she was required to leave school. Yet here is this woman years later claiming that as Black people, we need to basically get over racism. It's done. But yet she got money by claiming racism.
Right.
One more quote before you guys even go back. Let me just say what she has said about the Black Lives Matter movement and other things. Now, I have my own feelings about the Black Lives Matter movement, right?
Right.
However, regardless of the people who have put the movement together,
Right.
the movement itself about people actually caring about our lives is important,
Definitely.
right? So take away the actual institution of Black Lives Matter,
Right.
and let's talk about the message of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But this is what Candace Owens says about Black Lives Matter.
Oh, God.
Black Lives Matter protesters are a bunch of whiny toddlers pretending to be oppressed for attention. She feels that African Americans have a victim mentality, thinks that the Democratic Party is a plantation. She feels that the Democratic Party has left Black people to be government dependent, and that Black people have been brainwashed to vote for the government. She has argued that police violence against Black people is not about racism, and referred to police killings of Black people as a trivial matter to African Americans. And she has characterized abortion as a tool for the extermination of Black babies.
So when I think, I'm like, let that sink in. So my thing is this, and I believe this honestly of Candace. I do believe that she experienced racism, was traumatized, and that part where she was traumatized, it turned into self-hate, and she hates herself, and she hates anything that resembles herself. And she's taken on this mindset where she's like, there's no such thing as racism. There is no such thing as hate because of my skin, because that is impossible. There's got to be something else. She, to me, in my mind, has a lot of deep-rooted, embedded issues that she needs to deal with, because as you listen to how she speaks, it literally makes absolutely no sense. Because first of all, the idea of, why are we always talking about racism? Why are we always talking about the Holocaust? Why are we always talking about 9/11? Why are we always talking about SARS? Why are we like, you know what I mean? I could go on, and everyone can say that there are things that happen, whether in society or within your family, that you're always going to talk about. Why is she so offended to speak of something that is very much her heritage, her ancestry? And the idea that she wants to glorify, someone like Michael Jordan, where if our ancestors didn't fight and escape slavery, we wouldn't have Michael Jordan. We wouldn't have her. We wouldn't have us sitting here right now.
Big facts.
So the idea that she has a total disrespect for her ancestry just goes to show that she does not love herself.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000% because it seems like every time someone brings up racism or she sees, people fighting for Black Lives Matter, I guess it just triggers something in her brain to remind her of the trauma she went through. And she's just trying to continuously bury it by saying, well, why do we need to talk about Black Lives Matter? Why do we need to talk about racism? Like you were saying, if we didn't have our ancestors are the reason why we're even able to even be here right now. So yes, damn straight we're going to talk about slavery. Yes, we're going to talk about racism because it's clearly here. And, she's completely, I agree with you. I think she's completely taken on this character where maybe in her mind, she's a white woman. I don't know exactly what's going on with her, but she clearly, it's like she wants to, if she could jump into a tub and wash away her skin, she'd probably do it in a heartbeat because clearly she has a problem being Black.
And also just her thoughts. Like she had that one tweet 2 days ago. I have it up here.
Oh God.
She said, attention CEOs and business owners, please grow a spine. Stop issuing public apologies, stepping down from your own boards, and posting Black squares. Stop allowing the radicals in your companies to extort your brand. Everyone needs to stop playing by the left's rules. So she is just very much not into us being proud of being Black. She is not into the idea of let's take a minute and really solve the problems, the racial issues. She doesn't want to talk about that. She wants to talk about how Democrats have ruined everything and Donald Trump is going to save us all. And that, people that, like, here's another one from 3 days ago.
Oh, dear.
PSA, defending violent criminals who do drugs and beat their wives doesn't prove you're Black. It proves you're dumb. When real men like Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell, Ben Carson, Clarence Thomas disagree with me, I'll know I'm on the wrong side. Truth doesn't back down to the mob.
Clarence Thomas disagrees with her. Clarence Thomas disagrees with Trump. Clarence Thomas didn't even vote Republican.
Okay.
What is she talking about?
Okay.
I don't know what she's talking about. So
her guess is as good as mine.
And that's what I mean. Like, even the beginning, like, defending violent criminals who do drugs and beat their wives doesn't prove you're Black. I'm like, what?
What?
Like, what are you saying? Like, what is this rant truly about? So she's very confused. And, I always say that, you can be smart, but if you're taking in information and not really embedding it and relating it to reality, you can come across as crazy.
Well, that's what she's coming across as right now. She's coming across as a lunatic.
Yeah.
Because that tweet made no sense.
It made absolutely no sense.
Here's the danger of that's the danger of tokenism, right? That's when it becomes dangerous. I'm all for diversity. I'm all for inclusion. I'm all for representation. When you actually want to have change within an organization, I'm all for that. I'm all for someone coming into an organization and saying, yes, you guys have some good parts. However, the parts that are really bad, they suck, and you need to clean this up. And this is what those parts and how these parts are impacting those within the community, the global community. And if you want to hire a Black person, talk about Black issues, the Black community.
Right.
The danger with tokenism, and we're going to repeat it, is when the person comes in and takes on the character traits of their oppressor. So this is a woman who I've already said, basically saying oppression doesn't exist, yet she felt oppressed enough to leave school
Right.
for 6 weeks because she was traumatized by some voicemails. Not that she had been harassed, not that she had been physically harmed. I don't know if they even called her a nigger. Okay, I don't know, but she was threatened. And that threat based on her race, I can only assume this is why it was a racial discrimination. Right. They were able to prove that these threats came because of her race. So now this is a woman who somehow is now taking on the character traits of her oppressor as a way to defend herself. I can't That just
guess
isn't
so.
aligning with me.
She's
like
she's the house nigga. She's the house nigga.
well, she
She's
willfully
acting
calls
She's
herself an
taking on the
Uncle Tom.
role. She's a house nigga.
She willfully calls herself an Uncle Tom, and that's problematic, right? It's
very
problematic to me when you have decided that the only way for you to survive within a institution, because they're all institutions, right? This is where systemic racism is. Yeah. All of them are institutions, right? The Democratic Party, the Independent Party, all the parties of all the world, they're all institutions. But in order to survive within an institution, you have actually taken on the character traits of your oppressors, and then you're trying to use the words of your oppressors to bring other Black people towards you to say, but you're not being oppressed, you can be free here in a organization who actually doesn't respect your rights or what you stand for, because it's not allowing you to be able to freely speak and say, you guys have wronged us for years, you continue to wrong us, you're continuing to wrong women and poor Black women because you're trying to determine our reproductive rights. Okay, you're keeping up statues that actually represent slave owners and people have done wrong. You're doing all of these things. But she doesn't do that. So this is the danger with tokenism. And because Candace Owens is extremely intelligent, the issue with that is, if she was an idiot, I think people will discount it. Right, exactly. But there are people who just go, yes, she speaks for Black women and she speaks for millennials.
She is a representative, right? I mean, she is out there. Unfortunately, she is a commentator. She is someone that has the ability to get on any TV station, any website, and spew her opinion to anyone that will listen. And more than ever, people are out here trying to understand our community. So they are looking for our faces. They're looking for our skin tone. And Candace fits the skin tone. She fits the age group. She's not an ugly girl, no. She's smart. So she has all these great things going for her. So whatever she says, people that are trying to learn about our community, they are going to listen.
Unfortunately, she's the first thing that comes up.
Yeah, because she is out here, doing her thing. And she does it in a way where it seems like intelligence, because she is the first one to say, I am out here helping Black businesses, and the Black businesses that were all burnt down because of the Black Lives Matter riots. I'm the one that is helping them raise money so that they can survive. Black Lives Matter is a ridiculous organization, because what are they doing? They're burning down their own businesses, but here I am helping them as a Republican. And that's what she's saying. And to your conscious, logical mind, you're like, oh, well, yeah, she is doing that.
She's so two-faced, though.
So it makes you say,
right,
damn it, this woman is literally like,
she's smart.
Yeah.
She knows how to cover her tracks. Like, she says what she says.
It's like, you're a horrible person, yet she's
helping Black businesses.
Helping Black businesses rebuild after a negative situation.
She's smart.
She didn't help one Black business rebuild. The business that she put the GoFundMe page that they shut down was a business where the owner had made racial claims, and then people were boycotting. And so she determined that this is what she was going to do. But here's the thing, and I agree with her on one point. I actually agree with her on one point on one of her tweets. I'm going to take it a different way. I agree with her that as an organization, stop putting out black squares when they did, and stop putting out public apologies for shit that you actually mean. Like we have all learned.
Don't say it. That's absolutely fair.
We all learned in life. Exactly. Listen, when someone says something the first time, believe them. So the Starbucks of the world, all the other people who started to retract because I didn't mean and I didn't understand and this, that, and the next thing, this is all bullshit. We live in 2020. It's called Google. You can Google things. There are books. There is a library app. There are books you can read. There are people you can speak to. So stop saying that you didn't understand your privilege. Stop saying that you didn't understand what kneeling was in the NFL. Stop saying that you thought it was a disrespect to the flag when Colin Kaepernick and others had already come out and said, and Kaepernick said it with his own mouth, I am fighting for Black lives.
Right.
This is a silent protest to bring attention to what is happening in my community. So when you come out in 2020 and you say, I didn't really understand no. So that I will, don't put out statements. I appreciate you coming out and me understanding what you stand for. I get it. I don't accept your apology because you showed your whole ass.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. Please continue to show your whole ass. Don't put up things when that's not what you stand for.
Agreed.
If you don't stand with or stand for a community, I completely agree. Stop putting out. Stop stepping down. This is what you stand for. Take losing the money. The problem is capitalism over racism. Because a lot of these companies are realizing, holy crap, if we piss off people, guess what happened? Their marketing department pulled a bunch of stats and said, let's look at the demographics of our consumer. The demographics of our consumer are, and here's a pie chart that they put together and gave our little section of African Americans, and then they broke it down to age group. Like, we know what happened. And then so they said, shit, we stand to lose 1/3 because our consumers are 1/3 Black and this, that, the next thing. So let me go issue an apology. I don't really stand with Black people, but I ain't gonna lose Black money.
Right. Okay.
Right.
They want our money.
Because as I always say, Black people spend invisible
we spend
money.
we spend more than any
We
other
spend
race.
invisible money, like you always say. We spend invisible money.
Yeah, we find money out of nowhere.
Money that doesn't exist. And
we don't even know where it came from, and we find it and we spend it. No one spends more money than us. Nobody. Come at me. Nobody spends more than my people. No one. And you're right. When they see the pie chart and say, oh crap, he's pissed off, the majority of their customers, of course, are going to put up Black and say, I stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. But it's like, well, actually, no, you stand in solidarity with my money. You can give a shit about me. You don't care.
No, I fully agree. I fully agree with you.
You don't care.
So I have to agree with, like, I don't stand with that. And I think we have to be realistic in terms of, you know, if we actually want to see change, where does the change happen? And we've talked about this on the show. Change happens in people's pockets. Okay? That's what people care about, right? When you don't have money in your pocket, when you're, I have my wealth trade accounts and I'm just seeing stocks, I'm losing money, right? I just see stocks plummeting. Okay? That's what people care about. They care when stocks are plummeting, which means that they don't make money. They care when they're called into a boardroom to sit with their board of directors to explain why we lost this money. Well, guess what? We pissed off 1/3 of our consumers.
That's it.
That's what they care about. So when we decide that we're actually going to make effective change isn't just a hashtag Black Lives Matter. Change requires actions. Now, I will give it to Candace. Here's the thing, and I've said this many times. I don't like Donald Trump, but here's the thing about Donald Trump. I know exactly what I'm getting from him. He does not surprise me. I like my racism like I like my liquor. Straight up, no chaser.
Real talk.
Right? You're going to give me vodka, give me that shot. I don't need the chaser, right? Donald Trump is racism, misogynism, all of the isms.
All the isms
right?
and then
No chaser. Right? Yeah. You know what you're getting from him. So I can actually sit in a room with someone with whom I know when I am speaking in this way and it makes them uncomfortable because it does, I know what I'm getting back. Right. We didn't expect Donald Trump to stand around and make this poignant speech about George Floyd and what's happening. He said what he said. George Floyd is looking down from heaven. I'm sure this is what he wanted his life to be because I'm making the economy better.
He said what he said. He can't take it back.
I know what I'm getting. Somebody like Candace Owens, we know what we're getting. Whatever is going on in her mind, whatever brainwash, why she has chosen to take on, and I'm going to call it, again, taking on the characteristics of her oppressor. That is how she's surviving. So whatever happened in 2008 till 2020, or till basically 2016, where it's literally written, she basically made a full change.
Yeah.
Right? She went from being very liberal, right, very much a Democrat, so something happened and she said, oh, this either might be advantageous for me, or she just had a shift in her mind and she decided to take on characteristics of her oppressor. It's sad.
Very.
It's unfortunate, but how many of us are doing that to survive?
And that is and that's the thing, you know, like, I feel, I'm like, yeah, okay, Candace, but where would she have been if she did decide to sit on the left side, you know, of politics? We probably wouldn't even know who she is. The reason why we know who she is because she's picked up on the right side, which is very uncharacteristic for a Black young female. So, you know, we see it all the time. Donald will brought up like those 3 or 4 Blacks, guys, and they stood up there and said that, you know, Donald is a great dude.
Great job.
And, you know, like, we, you know, Black people, because of what we go through, we all reach a crossroads. We all get to a point where we're at the fork in the road, and it's like,
what are you going to do?
Am I going to go over here and just be what they want me to be, or am I going to do this because this is right for my community and this is for the greater good? And you've got to decide.
You do.
And it might not be to the, you know, the height of Candace Owens or Ben Carson or, you know, any of these peeps, but it is, it's something. I mean, it could mean getting promoted at work. It could mean gaining a major raise at work. It could mean having a better condo simply because you decided to pick up the oppressor's language. Like, it could change your life. Like, and it depends on what you value, right? Do you value money and being up here and being like, you know, like, oh, I'm in with all the, you know, the right people? Or does it mean, okay, I'm gonna have the same role for the next 10 years at my job, and I'm just gonna have to go through it, and no one's gonna listen to me because I'm not speaking their language.
Right.
It depends on you. Because there are many Black people that I can think of in my life that have taken on the Miss Owens, Mrs. Owens dialogue.
My only thing with Miss Owens is that she's just a replacement Emma Rosa. And we all saw what happened with Emma Rosa. Like, every time I think about tokenism, the person that's going on, they put on a pedestal, sooner or later, they got knocked down. So it's just a matter of time. Like, I don't know anyone that's been, you know, successful in tokenism.
Yeah, and stayed there for like 60 years. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time till we've all been through it. Maybe not to the experience, you know, we're not taking on our oppressor's language, but we've all been through it where we're in our jobs, we're doing our thing, and then for no reason whatsoever, we all just got cut down.
Because we no longer fit the narrative, right?
And it's just a matter of time till it happens to her.
You know, and it's so true, Garcia, what you said. It's we talk about it all the time. It's all about, what do you value? Right? And some people will value a roof over their head, right? That keeping food in their stomach and their families, making sure that their fancy car can get paid for and they have gas in it and all of the other things. And that value that they place on that thing will override what it means to remain rooted in your Blackness. What it means to not know that when you are speaking and taking on the characteristics of your oppressor, what you're doing is feeding into a narrative that actually goes against everybody else behind you. And there probably will be no one else behind you because they're like, oh, well, we filled our quota, we got our Black person. Like, you know, and you don't realize the danger of that, the danger of what that looks like, because, you know, Garcia is a mindset coach, Telly is a health and wellness coach. you understand that that does a number on your mental and physical well-being. When you constantly have to, we talked about it, having to play these roles. When you constantly have to show up in a skin that is not your skin. Right? When you're showing up to the workplaces, to these conferences, to these things, and you're speaking in a language that actually doesn't even really resonate with you, but it's the only way that you know how to survive, God damn what that must do to you.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, it
absolutely.
Ruins you. It ruins you, and it literally changes even your physical appearance. I've had people recently say that they're like, it's funny, you are the same person, but it's like you've physically, like your face looks different. You look different. I'm like, the world is a better place when I'm happy.
It's easier, it's easier to maneuver.
Exactly. Happiness is, it's like the plastic surgery you don't have to pay for.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? And
thank you.
When we were in it, we were doing that. We were suppressing ourselves so we could survive, so we could literally bring home some money to take care of ourselves. That's what was happening. And like Telly was saying, there comes a time when it's gonna either get to you, whether it gets to you and you have a mental breakdown, or, you know, they see that you're breaking and they just get rid of you.
Let's move along to the next Black person.
Who fits their narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all up that, and that's the danger, right? And that's the difference with representation and tokenism. In tokenism, you fit into their narrative.
That's it.
In representation, you have your own narrative that is meant to change their potentially negative narrative.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what people like. When people ask, there is extremely a difference. It's like there's a difference between diversity and inclusion. Diversity is, again, literally ticking a box. Well, I have an Asian, somebody from the LGBTQ community, I've got a woman that, like, it's literally, you can put together a whole freaking Excel sheet and just plug in numbers, right? Whereas when inclusion requires you to include the person in everything that comes with them, which means that their voice, which means that their voice is heard, right? They didn't just, like, you heard them and you're willing to implement things even if they went against the old school narrative, because the 1983 marketing plan that you have no longer works, right? It's different. Okay? Been there, okay? Been there. It's like, yo, no, different world. Been a lot of years, right? Like, that plan is no longer working. And this is how you're going to get this community. And in order to hear voices, you need to actually be listening to those voices, not taking what you think works for that community. That's inclusion. Inclusion is including somebody who's got a disability, so you understand what their thing is, not making them fit into your narrative because you put a wheelchair ramp or you had a bathroom. Well, we clicked it, right? That's what people are not getting. The represent, like, so this whole diversity and inclusion, and I keep hearing announcements about this company who's hiring or this person who's now the diversity and inclusion person. You're just realizing that you needed diversity and inclusion in 2020.
See, the thing is, and gosh, this is the thing. It's very, it's one of these things where, and this is why I kind of enjoy this kind of movement with the Show Up, Pull Up Instagram account, where they're saying to companies, we want to see the stats.
Show me receipts.
Yeah, how many Black females do you have in the roles of management or supervising in your company?
0.
How many Blacks, period, do you have in your company? 0. How many women of color, how many men of color do you have in your company making decisions? Basically, this is what they're asking. And they're asking companies, show us the stats. Some companies have been very brave, and I commend them. They have actually shown that, they literally have like 80% white women, and they will have 1 Black girl and 2 Asian girls. And they admit, they're like, we have a lot of work to do because we we're not representing the people we sell to.
Thank you.
And we need to work on it. And I'm like, thank you.
Well, yeah, at least you're being honest.
That is all, you know, it doesn't, I'm glad that everyone's out here hiring diversity, you know, directors and managers. Definitely you need one if you're having an issue. However, it's so simple. It's so easy. And all it starts with is opening the door and allowing the people of color, allowing the Blacks to come in, sit down, and let them feel free to speak, to talk.
That's it.
You know, because the talent is out there. There is talent out there. We have all been to these events where it's filled with literally like 1,500 Black people.
Oh my gosh.
That have diplomas and and masters in all these industries. And they're literally sitting there saying, hey, I am here. I'm ready to work. I need a job. And companies just need to show up. The HR manager literally just needs to walk in the room. And,
sorry.
No. And they will collect 2,000 resumes from Black people. Like, it's not
hard.
To hire Black people.
Hard.
We are around. Like, we're not new.
Right.
Like, we didn't just, like, Black people, we didn't just pop up. Like, we didn't pop up. Like, so this idea of this new movement, and we've got to be more inclusive, we've been around. We've built probably the building you're sitting in. Like, let's not pretend that your eyes are now open. And you said a word, Garcia, and this is why I pointed. The sentence, making decisions. There is a difference, because I know I have been in situations where I had a nice, great title, but every decision that I had to make had to go to someone else, and before I could implement anything, it didn't matter how great the idea was. And so then when things go well, good job, Toshiba. Good job, everybody. Good job, everybody. Oh, you know, Toshiba was driving it, but, you know, we all banded together and we did it. When things went to shit, it was all Toshiba, nobody else.
Of course.
That's what I'm saying. So I was, you know, you put people in a position, but if you don't actually arm them with the ability to make decisions, that's very different. And that, again, is tokenism versus representation.
Exactly.
I can be there and it looks good, and you can parade me around and you can show that I'm there and I show up to meetings and I'm in pictures. But when it comes to actually making decisions to move the business forward, oh, no.
You know, they don't want to be a part of that.
And you know what's funny too? I was just thinking back to a job where I was working there, and this is well before any of this stuff is going on. And the board was literally all white men and one Asian man. And yes, and the head of the board, one day they were up there saying something like a speech or something, and the head of the board was like, so yeah, I realize that our board is highly diverse. And then he laughed.
Oh, okay, good.
He laughed like crazy, and he's like, obviously we have work to do, because our company here, we have so many different nationalities, and then the board for this company looks nothing like, he's like, we have work to do. And so that means that they always knew.
They always knew.
They always knew.
But
who likes change? Who wants to do things? Who has
nobody?
No one wants to take up the banner and be like, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board. People don't want to do it because they're lazy.
And they just want to face reality. But they don't want to face the truth.
And we talked about it last week. Why change something that benefits you? Privilege when you are, you know, I think I was talking, I don't know if I said on the show last week, I happened to be talking to my daughter, but I said, here's the thing about privilege. It is the line bypass and VIP into every door you want to go into.
So true.
I love to go out and have a good time. Absolutely. I do not like to stand in lines. I don't like lines. I don't like lines of any kind.
No.
Okay? During COVID, I spent more money on groceries because I have to go to the expensive ass grocery store. There was no line, right? In the cheaper girl, Food Basics had a line. Loblaws and Metro had no line. Exactly. So I went there to spend more money.
Sobeys,
so
they have no line.
All the fancy
I don't mind.
Yeah.
So I don't like lines. So what do I do when I go out? Me and my girls get a VIP booth so that when I go up to the line, I say, this is my name. They get the waitress and they walk me in. I don't have to stand in the line.
No.
That is privilege, right? This is everyday privilege where your skin color, where your sex, where your whatever it is gets you a permanent VIP entrance. Where they just open it up for you, right? So why would they change that? That is why systemic racism is what it is. If I have an advantage over the competition because of this, if I have an advantage, if I align myself with someone or something, even though I may not agree to them, but doors are opening up for me, Candace Owens. Why would I change to be on the losing team, right? You've got to consider, in her mind, we are the losing team already, so I might as well align with someone who's winning, who's going to bring me up. And so she talks about the fact that, you know, playing the black card, and if you play it expertly, she's actually talking about herself. Yeah. She's playing this card expertly. Yep. She's getting white people to bring her up and put her in a position where she wins. She was tired of being, what happened in 2008, she realized she was part of a team she didn't want to be a part of because she saw her black skin as making her lose. So she decided to use her black card and put herself in a position that she could win so she could get this VIP entry. And listen, if that's what you need to do and that's what makes you sleep at night, more power to you, but I find it a dangerous position to be in.
And they're making good benefit off of it. And so, I mean, their own.
I'm conscious of the time.
The whole point is, I mean, for me, is that what I say is that, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be perfectly honest, as I always am with you guys. When white people like you,
it's a one-up.
It's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
I mean, this is not to say that, you know, whatever, I don't want obviously black people to like me. I want my own people to like me.
Absolutely.
But the truth is that white people, as long as they're sitting in the CEO chairs, you know, they are the ones that are making the decision to say that, yeah, you matter. I want you here in our company. And they're the ones that you need to impress. And as long as that's how the system is, we're going to continue having Candace Owens because it's the fastest and easiest way for blacks to move up. I mean, we look at Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra. If Frank Sinatra didn't like Sammy Davis, we would never know who Sammy Davis is.
It's kind of true.
And that was like 1950.
Even with Quincy Jones.
Yeah, you know, like
Frank Sinatra loved Quincy Jones and invited him to play for his band.
White
and the rest
people
is
loved
history.
Quincy Jones if you watched his bio.
Yeah.
And that is why Quincy Jones is Quincy Jones. So we do have an issue with, you know, this embedded racism that's going to continue producing people like Candace Owens, because we all learned, even through our college and then in our first work experience, oh, okay, Bob Smith has to like me. Suzanne Walker has to like me. If they like me, then
you're okay.
Because you want to be, again, in the VIP line, right? Because nobody wants.
I do love the VIP line.
Right? This is literally systemic racism. If I was like, I can't think of a better way to describe systemic racism than literally a privilege that allows you to get a line bypass the rest of your life in everything you do. Never wait. Like, that is privilege. Never waiting in a line, being ushered into life. And that she's benefiting from, you know, privilege. But one day she's going to have a wake-up call. And as many people have been having wake-up calls, like a lot of people who thought that they had certain privileges if over the last few weeks have gotten certain wake-up calls. So this is where we are. Anyways,
a little louder for the people in the back.
57 or 55 seconds.
Oh.
So quickly, let's do the takeaway.
So my takeaway is that I'm just gonna continue being authentically Black. I can easily say that though because I run, my own business. So
Well,
I
that's
only
true.
need to impress myself.
That's it. And you know what? I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. I'm not going to let anyone think that Candace speaks for the entire Black community because she doesn't. She speaks for her. But I know who I am, and I'm not going to sell out my own skin for anything. I love being Black. I will forever be Black. Blackity, black, 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 black. That's it, sister.
Tokenism is very dangerous when you take on the characteristics of your oppressors to then turn around and oppress the already oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So like Percy has already said, part of that is trying to own your own, and we need to do better at that. So thank you everyone for watching.